Property Management Committee to order. First order of business, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Davidson,
Here.
Commissioner Dodd,
Here.
Commissioner Hall,
Here.
Commissioner Phillips,
Present.
Commissioner Irvin, Commissioner Anthony Johnson,
Present.
Chairman McAdoo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, approval of minutes. Commissioner Dodd.
Thank you, Chairman. I find the minutes to be in order and make a motion for their approval.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. No public comments tonight.
No, sir.
Next, corrections partnership. Mayor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a first part of a presentation that some of you heard last night, and hopefully we're going to give you a little bit of a condensed version tonight. We went a little long. It's important. The working group. Let me just start off. We started a working group back in November. We had our first meeting November 21st, 2023. And that working group, it wasn't a committee, it was a working group to try to determine and identify the problem as it related to the future needs of an adult correction facility or a jail for Rutherford County. Not just a jail, but also the ancillary facilities like administrative offices and those kind of things, and how the county has outgrown that facility in the last 30 years in an effort to keep up to date so that we retain the certifications and the accreditations that are very, very important to the county and to law enforcement. So we embarked on this just with the great help from Bob Bass and Jim Hart, and they're going to speak in just a second. But we had our first meeting on November 21st, 2023, and we've met at pretty much every month since then trying to quantify the problem, which is why we're here today. Is after 2 years, we've identified the problem, and we're now ready to take those next steps forward, which necessarily involve the county commission. But before we get started, I want to thank those on that working group because they dedicated hours of their time to identifying this problem, hopefully scoping it correctly. And so I want to thank Commissioner Trey Gooch, Commissioner Pettis Reed, Commissioner Laura Davidson, Sheriff Mike Fitzhugh, and his staff, Steve Spence, Keith Lowry, Chris Kaufman, Keith Henderson, Dr. Dan Rudd, Michael Smith, our Finance Director, Eric Hennessy, my Chief of Staff. As I've said, I've mentioned Bob Bass and Jim Hart, Brian Harbaugh, DA, District Attorney Jennings Jones, Judge Jimmy Turner, Judge Terry Fan, and Correctional Work Center Director William Cope. This is a pretty exhaustive list. I will say this working group is going to continue to meet, and if any members of this committee or the commission desire to participate and observe these proceedings, you're by all means welcome. And we have a standing time, and if you'll consult Rachel in my office, we will be glad to get you on that invitation list.
Quick question.
Yes. And thank you. I appreciate people asking when the question comes up. So
Question that I got
Yeah.
a question that I got today.
Yes.
After last night's meeting at Public Safety, that I was able to watch little pieces of
Sure.
last night. Are the working group, does it have minutes and documents and all that kind of stuff
So-
somewhere available?
Yeah, so what we did is we wanted to be careful not to call it a committee because a committee invokes certain requirements that weren't necessary, but we did have, Rachel did keep minutes, and I believe Eric kept some minutes, and so we have those. So yes, absolutely, if you would like access to those are fully available.
Are they publicly available? It's not just, I was kind of curious after I was asked, but
If they're not
Are they
publicly available, we will make them publicly available. How about that?
That's
And
perfect.
I will find out to what extent they are or not, and we will rectify that to the degree they are not.
right, and put it on the website somewhere.
Yeah, we can have. That's not an issue at all.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So what we came up with was we're now at a fork in the road. The commission needs to make a decision. Are we going to take the fork? And the fork is, in order for us to determine the type of facility, where that facility is, do we renovate our old existing facility? Do we construct a new facility? Or do we know nothing at all? We need to embark on doing some more work. and this is called, what we call this is called programming. And this kind of defines the scope. And so just to understand this process has got a series of about 4 go, no-go points. And at any point in time, the commission can determine, you know what, we don't want to do this anymore. And that's part of this process. So tonight we're at one of those go, no-go points, which is, do we want to invest the money to do the programming to determine the scope of a new facility, whether renovated or built brand new, where it would be, these kind of things. And so that is the goal tonight. And so what we're going to do, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I am going to ask, if your permission, Sheriff Fitzhugh to come up and again scope the problem and give some history and context to this. I'm going to allow, if Sheriff Fitzhugh will come on up, I will say this, I think he agrees with me that if you have a question during his presentation, I don't think he would object to you interrupting, because I know he's going to bring Bob Bass and Jim Hart as well, as we start to kind of give you some background information on the reason this is a problem and why it is critical that we solve this in some manner within the next 4 to 5 years.
Do you want to go ahead and bring them up now?
They're on.
Okay.
Okay, what I'd like to do is, there was a study that was done by Jim Hart from CTAS, and he is with us, and Bob Bass, who is with Tennessee Corrections, they're with us on Zoom. And it's the booklet that I know Commissioner Irvin has got, and we had furnished that last year to all the commissioners. And what I would like to do is, if Jim did the study, and Jim, if you could, like last night, is give us a short synopsis of what entailed there.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Hart. I'm the jail consultant with the University of Tennessee's County Technical Assistance Service. I did the jail needs assessment for this, for Rutherford County. And the mayor, well, you're going to hear a lot of comments from the sheriff, the mayor, Bob Bass, that are different extracts and different pieces of the study that you've also had the opportunity to see, or you have at your disposal there. The mayor mentioned the programming component. The programming component I sort of look at as part of the needs assessment component that this report is, where my assessment looked at jail operations, it looked at inmate population numbers by history, and it gave projections. The next phase is, or the next part of that piece of the puzzle is to evaluate structural, mechanical, electrical, property, physical plant issues, if you will, in the facility to give you more pieces of information. One thing that we know reported in the study is that Rutherford County has significant growth over the years. My study, or the numbers that projections that I provided in this study, went out to the year 2045, and I believe that the estimations reflect Rutherford County being well over 500,000 citizens at that point in time. So the community is growing, thus the need for the public safety needs, correctional needs grows as well. Excuse me. The capacity of your facility is currently 977 beds. We use a classification figure of 85%, meaning that when the average daily population, not isolated days, but the average daily population exceeds that 85%, your jail's crowded. It restricts the agency from classifying and separating offenders by their different types of risks and needs. Some may be violent, some are sexual predators, some have medical and mental health substance abuse needs, some are escape risks. And so part of a well-run, safe, and secure jail operation will enable us to separate those. So given that capacity of 977 inmates, bed spaces total, on January 22nd, you had 1,160 inmates in custody. Yesterday, you had 1,055. And I took a look at the Department of Corrections jail snapshot reports over the last 12 months, and it looks like that you exceeded, on average, in excess of 1,000 inmates in each over those 11 months. So the jail's crowded. You're exceeding capacity routinely, not just the jail bed space, but the classification capacity as well. This process that is going to be discussed tonight is a lengthy process. if all the hurdles were checked and everyone was in agreement to do something moving forward with the jail expansion or new construction, you could be looking at least the year 2030 before completion or before having that additional bed space or that capacity to support what your needs are. Yet the population doesn't stop growing. It continues to grow as that time goes on. One thing to consider in a jail expansion, and this information is in the study, is the aging of your facilities. You currently have a facility, basically two facilities with the annex and the tower that are approaching 40 and 50 years of age. Now you're talking, potentially talking, if you look at an expansion of a brand new facility connected to those two aging buildings, if you will. Which leads to things that this additional information that you'll be receiving or be hearing about today is, does it make sense to do that expansion, to invest a new building or connect a new building to an existing facility? The other thing in the study pointed out is it's not just bed space that is needed for Rutherford County with the growing community in confinement needs. It is also all of the different support functions, food service, healthcare, quartermaster or storage components, your booking and intake components, office spaces, programming spaces. And I know that each of you have had the opportunity to tour the facility, and you can sort of envision the challenges or the stretching, if you will, of resources that you have in your facility. And then the final thing I would just like to point out that I discussed in the staffing assessment or in the needs assessment is that you're basically operating two facilities today with the annex and the tower. And you're going to hear some comments about operating with the tower, operating a different jail on each floor, if you will. It takes a significant number of staff to keep that building operating in a safe and secure manner and performing all the different functions and activities that have to occur. An expansion of the facility will basically add a third jail operation to that component. So at some point in time, I hope what the programming process will do is also show you, is it makes sense to add that third component or that third piece of the puzzle, if you will, to your existing physical plant, and what the impact of staffing would be versus the impact of staffing of moving to a green site where a new, modern, more efficient, staff-friendly, if you will, facility is constructed. So Sheriff, I thank you for the opportunity to speak and certainly be available for any questions that may come up this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Bob will jump in if anybody will get into a question or anything from a TCI standpoint, but what I'd like to cover is the original sheriff's office at 940 was built and completed in 1987. A jail ages 3.5 years per year of use. So taking that into account, because we're open 24 hours a day and all the utilities and everything that we use is going 24 hours a day, that building age is equivalent of a 133-year-old building. The original, now that we know it as the annex, is what we call it, was designed for single occupancy cells with 6 pods of 14 cells per pod, 7 down, 7 up, for a total of 84 inmates. So we had a total of 88 employees at that time, and it was designed for 84 inmates. When we moved into that, it was approximately 70 inmates with 88 employees. In 1998, a new addition, high-rise, was built and completed. That building, taking the same analysis of 3.5 years per year, is 94.5 years is the age on that building. On the addition of the high-rise in 1998, 9-story building with administrative on the first floor and inmate pods on the remaining floors. Each floor contains a pod with 2 tiers per floor for a total of 100 inmates per floor for a total of all floors of 400. In 1998, we had 282 employees and approximately 400 inmates when that building opened. The total capacity in 1988 with the annex and the new high-rise was 484 single bunks. Between the years 2000 and 2005, we added a second bunk to each cell to bring capacity to 868. And with some additional modifications, we have increased our capacity now is at 977. Tennessee Corrections states that a full capacity is at 85% of total capacity to allow for inmate classifications, population surges, mental health, medical, and so forth. So we've got to have, even though they're double bunked now, there are some cells we're only occupant by one person because of either segregation or health crisis or a medical need. So we're considered at capacity by state at 830 for total. TCI requirements are 35 square feet per occupant is required to confine for an inmate for more than 10 hours. Our cells with 2 people in the cell does not meet that requirement. So we've got a day room which is in the center of all the cells go around it, and we are required to meet this standard to leave the people out of cells for 14 hours a day. Obviously, this creates a safety hazard for our employees. Oftentimes, we have a rover that goes through, and you've got a single rover going through with 50 inmates in a pod. So it creates quite a problem. We've had a double bunk. If you'll remember, in 2016, those of you that were here, we lost our certification of the jail due to several circumstances. In 2017, when we took office, within about 4.5 to 5 months, we got the jail recertified. But to do that, we had to move bunks, stack them, trying to get additional space. Instead of being side by side of each other, we had to add additional showers and a lot of other things, bookkeeping and so forth, that we had to do to get that recertified. We have been recertified every year with no defects since that time. And operational things I can solve, our detention staff can solve, capacity I can't solve, and that's kind of where we are. The building that we have right now, of course, obviously was built with a laundry, kitchen, sally port where inmates go in and out, inmate clothing storage and supplies, was not built for the number of people that we got. We got today 671 employees, and we're housing an average of 1,040 to 1,050 inmates per day. So we've outgrown the capacity. To give you some idea, we estimated the population in 1987 in Rutherford County was 118,570. In 1987, 108,215. I'm sorry, 1987 was 108,215. In 1998, 169,330. And the last figure that we had on 2025, the population in Rutherford County is 379,939. Obviously, as the population grows in this county, so does our inmate crisis. We're going to have the good, and with the good comes the bad. We've got a deteriorating building, and that's kind of where we are right now. As a state, is capacity situation. Go through. If you've got us on our slides, you ready? That's not up there though. That's not ours. Okay, this just gives you kind of an idea. This is in your book that we have given you, but I wanted to show you. This is our Sally Port. The Sally Port was built at a location where you've got employee entrance, you've got bondsman entrance, and then you've got an entrance where we're bringing inmates in and take them into jail. Time you get a van and 2 cars in the Sally Port, then you're full. So a lot of instances, we are having to unload inmates in the parking lot and walk them into the building, which creates a tremendous safety hazard when you've got all of this coming together at one location. It's just another look at the Sally Port. It's inadequate for the building that we've got right now. This is inmate clothing. When every inmate comes in, we have to take their personal articles, their clothing and whatnot, and store it. Obviously, it's in the annex. The annex was built for 84 people, inmates, and this is what we've got right now as a storage on, so we're putting them in bags and storing the clothing while they're incarcerated. And this is another example of property storage, and it gets pretty tight in there. This is our back storage where we receive supplies for the jail, clothing, medical supplies, kitchen, food. It all comes into this location. And this is your storage for your inmate clothing. Another example. This is the indoor rec. This was in the original building, the low-rise or the annex that we know now. We've had to convert it, and we are using this for programs. We only have one room for programs, so obviously we have to change it. We could do more programs if we had room for the inmates. The more programs you have, it helps towards recidivism and decreasing it. But because we've had to convert this, and then also in this room, we do video court, which while that's going on, we cannot have programs. So it interferes with that. This is a cage where people are held in that room until their video court comes up. This is a space that we took in, and we've got, was it 8, Chief? 8 people working in this space. A normal desk would not fit in here, so we had inmates that made desks for this facility, and that's what that is there. We've got one entrance for trucks to bring supplies to us. It has sunk to some extent, but and of course it's in the back of the building, so it's extremely difficult when you get a tractor trailer in there trying to get into that location. And that's a view from the side of that. This is our laundry space. It was built in the high-rise, the new in 1998, and it was built for approximately 400 inmates, and here we are today with 1,000-something doing laundry. But that's our laundry, and it's not adequate for what we've got. Another view. This is the inmate shower. Cinder block walls, extremely difficult to keep the showers clean because of the cinder block and the way it's built. You repaint, and then, of course, obviously because of the dampness and the water situation, and it's a continual situation trying to keep it clean. We have inmates on CPAP machines and all things, and so we have to run the electrical cords to accommodate that for medical. Just kind of give you an idea of looking at some situations that if we do and we don't build, what would that do to us? And I'm not going to read that to you other than just to say that there's some situations that we need to look at, such as improving safety, designing for current and future needs, reducing liability, building better recruitment and retention of our employees, and plan predictable investment, and demonstrates responsible planning. Key impacts of not building a new jail. Overcrowding will increase, legal and financial risk will grow, staff safety and retention will decline, required care becomes harder to deliver, public safety decisions driven by space, not risk, long-term costs increase, and bottom line, not building a new jail or expanding does not maintain the status quo, it accelerates decline. A new facility is an investment in safety, accountability, and the future of Rutherford County. This pretty well covers this overall and an overall view of the detention side of the house. Chief Kaufman is in charge of the law enforcement side, the other opposite side of the detention, and he's got a short demonstration he's going to do too.
Sheriff,
Yes, sir.
could I ask a few questions?
I'm sorry?
Ask a few questions. Mr. Chairman, is that okay?
It's okay.
Okay. Because there was some, I just want to clarify some stuff from last night and kind of go over it for today. The total population, I think, was, you had indicated last evening, was stabilizing about 1,000?
1,050.
Okay, 1,050. And then the max was 830?
The 85% is at 830, yes.
Okay, okay, so we're at pretty close, because I think I heard last night, correct me if I'm wrong, from the gentleman who's up there on the screen right now.
Bob Bass.
Yep, who said that if state prisoners are not counted, so we're right on that bubble, it seems. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. And I'll let Bob explain that because he is Tennessee Corrections. There's some 14 to 19 areas that they look at, some 480-something standards that we've got to meet. And one of them, Bob, can you address the question? The question is on state inmates when it comes into looking at capacity, that they are taken into account when we're looking at an overcapacity situation of subtracting
Well,
those.
as I discussed last night, and thank you, Sheriff, as I discussed last night, we take those out of the equation that we can. So we didn't go into a long conversation. Your time is very precious. It was going to be a long meeting last night, but if I can, I'll take a moment and kind of condense it. If anybody wants to talk further with me about it, I can. So when we say we don't count those state inmates, if you're not contracting, we count. If you're contracting, we count them. If you're not contracting, we don't count them. But out of the state inmates you have, and yesterday the number was at 250, there's not 250 state inmates that can go to the penitentiary. So you have inmates that are serving split confinement. Split confinement simply means that you've got a sentence, local sentence you've got to fulfill before you can go on to the state penitentiary. Some of those inmates are serving a year or less, and TDOC won't move them. They'll leave them there at your facility. So there are some oversight by them and some of their rules that are going to affect that. So you would have to do an audit, which I haven't done, but your folks can go through the jail management system and they can look at that. You're not going to find, in my opinion, enough to bring that number down. You might find 100 of those inmates. Again, without looking at it, I don't actually know. That's just an educated guess. So that's where we're at. You've got an overcrowded facility, and I think the focus needs to be on it's an antiquated facility, and it's got a lot of issues with the physical plant, which we refer to in our industry as the jail. So that's where we're at. I hope I answered that for you.
Yes, curiosity, do we have to take state prisoners or state inmates?
I'm sorry, could you?
If the state delivers them to our doorstep, do we have to take them, or how does that work?
On state prisoners?
Yes.
If
In other words, can we say, can you as the sheriff say, we'll take 25, or we'll take 100? Is there a choice in there? I don't know the answer to the question, obviously.
Let me explain.
Well, they're your inmates. They're your inmates. They're people that are sentenced to TDOC or Rutherford County inmates. They're your inmates. And then once they have a bed space open, they take them into the system.
So these are not inmates that are being transferred from another facility into Rutherford County. These are folks that have committed a crime in Rutherford County, and it's
They're-
law violation.
yeah, let me explain that.
Consequently, that's why they're classified as.
We do not house.
Okay, that's I just wanted to clarify that because.
Perfectly understood.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
All right, I want to explain that. We do not house anyone in our facility that did not commit a crime in Rutherford County. The only exception to that would be is from time to time, an adjacent county such as Bedford or whatnot will have what they call charging partners, say in a murder or whatnot. And they need to separate them from that facility. Then we have in the past taken one inmate, and the same is true of us. We've called them to take one of ours, and that's strictly because of the situation, a dangerous situation, and we need to completely separate them. We may be 4 and 5 stories high, but whatever happens on the first floor, the 5th floor knows very quickly. Word gets around real quick. So there are some instances where we have to physically totally separate that person. That's a rare instance, but, and it's usually on a one-on-one type basis. All the inmates that we got now, all 1,000 plus of them, are charged in Rutherford County, committed a crime in Rutherford County, and that's the only ones we're housing. I do not house inmates from other counties.
Okay, thank you. Now, to the CTAS gentleman, the, on page, I think it's 29, if I'm looking at the right page, there's projections going out, you know, from 2026 all the way to 2045. And I was curious, because this report was done in February of 25, if there's anything, any underlying assumptions or anything along those lines. For example, hypothetically, changes in government policy or regulations or laws that would impact the projections. In other words, are these projections still his opinion that, you know, that these are basically valid projections, so that, you know, in 2030, we're looking at an increase of roughly 481 or 481 minus 55 inmates at that point in time? Is that?
Jim may see something. I don't see anything that is happening now, has recently happened, or is going to happen in the future. Of course, I can't predict the future or what new laws or whatever may come into play. But based on the information I got, and Jim, you may correct me, I don't see anything that drastically affects what the projections are. If anything, because of the growth coming into the county, we may be a little bit ahead of those projections. But that's a growth
Sheriff,
factor.
Can I give an example that might, one of the things that in West Tennessee that has come up over the last several years is the Blue Oval City with the Ford mega site. So all those surrounding counties out there have been in a mode of in figuring out how to increase public safety amongst housing and schooling, and jails part of that discussion, juvenile detention is part of that discussion as well. So there was a lot of ramping up and gearing up to looking at projections based on what the anticipated growth of those communities were. Well, now Blue Oval has sort of ramped down and looking at retooling and making some changes in that direction, if you will. So now a lot of those programs and those initiatives have sort of started going in the reverse direction as far as projections or planning goes. So as I think I may have mentioned in the study is that these projections are based on some accepted practices that are utilized not only here in Tennessee but across the country in jail planning. But there is no crystal ball. We've made the best effort based on the data, based on the information, based on the trends that I've seen for your county, but also my experience in doing these across the state of Tennessee. So I still feel fairly confident in those numbers and those projections as we move forward based on current patterns of your community.
Is it based more on, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like it's more based on population than other or correct me, but I'm just trying to understand, is it a population metric, or is there other metrics that come into play?
So what I look at is there's historical data involved. I look at the average daily population for the facility over a 10-year period. I look at data, what I'll refer to as peaking factors, and I'll just to simplify it is, let's say that your average daily population is 100 inmates. But throughout each month, it may be 110 inmates, it may go to 120, it may go to 125. And what I'll do is take the 3 highest counts of each month over a 10-year period, and I develop a calculation into the average daily population. So I have, I capture what that being prepared for those surges in the population. Why do surges happen? Circuit court days surges happen, major roundup surges happen. just as the reverse goes. When COVID hit we saw significant declines in populations because of some decisions made by as far as the courts go to reduce our populations in custody. The other thing I look at is that I have developed based on trends that I've seen in the state of Tennessee, when a major expansion occurs or a new construction happens, is that in many instances, public safety, sometimes the courts, have been somewhat hamstrung trying to really manage the jail population, where there's people that probably could be incarcerated, but because of jail crowding conditions, we do whatever we can to try to get them out of custody or to divert them, that may be of a higher risk than what we typically feel comfortable with. However, my experience is that about 20, or when a new facility is open or a major expansion is open, that there is a surge in that population that sort of holds steady from there. I also base it on your community growth, and I take a look at an incarceration rate of the average daily population compared to 1,000 citizens in your community. So I add that calculation into it. So there's several different matrices that I utilize to come up with those projections for your population. And I've felt very satisfied in the last 18 years of doing these in the state of Tennessee that for those jails that have built new or expanded or even going through the planning process is what is being suggested here, to continue that planning process, that the numbers hold fairly true going forward.
Thank you. One other question. If you were to, for example, add a judge, hypothetically, does that figure into your calculation? Because I understand a substantial portion of the population is awaiting adjudication in one form or another.
So if I could interject, that is a great question, because that goes directly to the need for the programming. The programming would absolutely, if that were an issue, it would help us quantify that. That's the part we're trying to program for. So anything that we would say in that regard we would be speculating.
Sorry, I'm just curious.
And I might point you to
the
page
analysis that he
17
went through. I was trying to understand. I get the point, Mr. Mayor.
I might point you to page 17 of the study, where I talk about the days in custody at the time of release. Looking at this, at that time, 50% of the inmates that were released from your facility had spent less than 24 hours in custody, and another 30% between 1 and 7 days. That's fantastic. When I start seeing counties that those releases within 24 hours are below 40%, there are some significant system or process issues that are going in place. Your county does a fantastic job of trying to move people through the system, to address them in the courts, to divert out of custody. So what I see here, based on the history, is your county does a really good job of moving people through the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
Okay, Chris.
Heard quite a bit this evening about the jail and detention facility. Basically, what I'm going to talk about is. Sorry about that. How does that work? Does that work for you? Basically, I'm going to give you a briefing on the law enforcement side of the house. If you can imagine, there's the jail, and then there's law enforcement side of the house, which is referred to as the sheriff's office. I like to call it law enforcement operations because it has everything to do with patrol, CID, our criminal investigation division, our narcotics, school resource officers, warrants and records, everything along those lines, and the administrative staff that supports those operations. So when we're talking about that, just keep that in mind. It's not really anything to do with the tower or anything like that. So basically what I'm going to do is provide an overview of how staffing and operation demands have outpaced our facility capacity. And basically it's resulting in significant limitations that affect our efficiency, our training, evidence, security, and long-term sustainability in law enforcement operations. This is overhead photo that we took a couple days ago with one of our drones, and you can see it's quite expansive. Primarily, I'm going to be talking initially about the main building, which is the one-story part there that's attached to the tower. We currently conduct law enforcement operations across 3 separate buildings, excluding the detention center. So if you're looking at this front view, this is from Highway 99 in this view. The tower is in the back. The one-story building is what we just saw in the last slide. That's primarily where all the law enforcement operations happen in the main building. And then the front building here is one of our other locations at 964 New Salem Highway. It's the long gray building. Of course, like the sheriff said, the sheriff's office opened in 1987. We purchased the CID building, what we refer to it as, in 2012. We have a third building. It's at a confidential location. It was purchased in 2017. That's our narcotics building. All these operations over the years primarily were centralized in one location, and because of overcrowding and the staffing, we've had to spread them across multiple off-campus locations. Just to give you an idea, in 1987, there was 88 employees at the sheriff's office. Of those 88 employees, 53 of them were law enforcement personnel, like what I supervise. The size of the building, that one-story area that we looked at, you see on the slide, was 18,600 square feet. Fast forward to today, 2025, the sheriff's office on the law enforcement side employs approximately 383 personnel. That's a 623% increase in staffing over that time frame. The main facility has only expanded to 19,689 square feet since 2010. So basically what you have is huge growth in staffing, and the building itself, the size remained basically static. As a result, we'd had to eliminate our weight room. That was one of the slides the sheriff showed you that is now offices. Storage closets and restrooms have been turned into functional workspace. We only have in that area right there, that 19,000 square foot area, we only have 6 restrooms, 3 male and 3 female. And those aren't like industrial sized restrooms like the one that's out here with multiple commodes and sinks. It's like 1 commode, 1 sink for each one. It gets a little interesting at times there. The main building, talking about it, and then we'll move on to the CID building. We've had to make massive renovations over the years to create office space. And in some instances, some of our specialized units don't even have dedicated workspaces. They work off of conference tables in different divisions with laptops, and that's considered their office, as well as their car, of course. Looking at the CID building, this is an overhead of that at 964. It's 14,000 square feet. It houses our CID, Criminal Investigations Division, our school resource officers, our training division, our special operations division, and SWAT. Daily, there's 60 employees in this building. And as you can see, parking is very limited where it's fenced in there. There's only 30 dedicated parking spots. We also have had to make major renovations in there. We've taken up all the office, or all the space we can. We've created common areas and closets into offices. All the offices are occupied. There, we only have 3 restrooms as well. Same type of situation as the main building. The records and storage area where we keep active criminal record cases that are going on or just closed there have to be purged regularly and sent over to archives, which is another location here in town. And it's almost full to capacity from my understanding. Moving on to the narcotics building, it's 16,000 square feet. It houses 22 investigators. It also only has 3 restrooms, kind of a trend. Since the purchase 8 years ago, we've invested over $108,000 in repairs, primarily in the HVAC systems. We've spent several other $1,000s in technology investments to maintain the infrastructure there. This next slide you see here, this is where we conduct our training. Where it says classroom, of course, that's a classroom. The other side of that happens to be our transport division that transports inmates to court and such, and appointments. As you can see in the classroom, the little small picture up top there, the classroom is real small. It's limited to 20 people. The problem with that is we know it's share it for our side of the house with 383 employees. It also works for the detention side. They use it as well. So scheduling becomes quite interesting. The size of our agency, we handle multiple classes weekly, so it's not just one class. We might have 2 or 3 classes going on. As a result, we have to outsource locations, which result in complications with scheduling, like we use the EMA building sometimes. We do not have a dedicated defensive tactics room like a lot of agencies, where we work on defensive tactics and use of force, which is a serious liability issue. That being said, we have to borrow Riverdale's high school wrestling room when they're in session to go over there and train defensive tactics while school's going on. So that also causes some issues at times. This is definitely impacts our readiness and compliance and officer safety. It has a big impact on it. Commissioner Beverly asked yesterday in the meeting about if we've had to resort to a lot of online training as a result. We have. And as we all know, watching videos over and over and over again, you just don't get the impact that you do when somebody's up speaking or actively discussing slides and you can interact with the instructor. So it has affected us in some aspects of our training. This next slide is our evidence building. It's a 100 by 30 metal building. It's not rated for high storms or tornadic activity. There's approximately 9,000 pieces of evidence in there from active cases. You name the case, type of case it's in there. The problem with that is it not being storm rated, or if a tornado comes through, it could blow evidence to Nashville or wherever. It's just a metal building, and that evidence is gone. We house cold case evidence, all kinds of things in there. In most cases, in most law enforcement, police department, sheriff's office, they want that type of building or area inside the main structure where it's in a hardened facility, so that can't happen. So that's obviously a concern. It's a very secure facility. We also use multiple Connex buildings to house drugs and some other things. That being said, they can blow away as well. They're very secure, but they can blow away. Core issue here is that with the growth of population, it has increased the crime. With the increase in crime, it's increased our investigations, our arrest warrants, our evidence collection, specialized enforcement units that we've had to create, like our STOPS unit that combats fentanyl usage and dealing. We've lost space for those. We don't have space for those units to operate out of, office space. The Sheriff's Office can no longer meet the current operational demands, and there's no remaining room for internal expansion. We're busting at the seams, so to speak. The current state of our facility is contributing, a big contributing factor in retention of our people. We're losing people at a fast rate anyways, due to multiple reasons, but that doesn't help us any at all. The bottom line is, as the Sheriff's Office has reached a critical infrastructure point, the original design of these facilities were almost 40 years ago, and we no longer are aligned with the current staffing levels. The training requirements and evidence, security standards, public safety expectations, without a solution to this problem, is going to deeply affect our readiness and our effectiveness and continue to expose us to issues. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions as far as I'm concerned? No. Thank you.
Commissioner Davidson.
Hi, I'm not quite sure who here might be able to answer my question, but I know you spoke about being decertified back in the day, and then you were able to make arrangements to get recertified. So at what point, I know we've discussed there's some stopping points along the way, if the commission decides this isn't something they want to continue and we were to become decertified for the high population, what ultimately would happen to us?
We would become decertified. Let me explain that. If we have a plan of action in place, which is what we are doing now, and it's active, And active is a key word in that. The Board of Control of the Tennessee Corrections Institute meets quarterly, and we vote on this. I'm a member of that board. And the facilities will come to us, usually the mayor and the sheriff, and present their plan of action as to what's going on. If it's not an active plan of action, the board will decertify that facility. If we've got an active plan of action, and by active I mean it's a plan of action in place and we are moving towards fulfillment of that plan, then we can vote through the BOC Board of Control to keep our certification during that process. If we do not have a plan of action in place, then we are decertified. What we do then is we lose support of the TCI in terms of if we get into a lawsuit, which usually is filed at the federal level, then we have no backing. The first thing they do is look at our records and everything, and are you certified? And if we're decertified, then it opens Pandora's box. So there's a downside to that. The other situation, which we can get into, is if we get a federal lawsuit, and this is where these were filed for capacity or whatnot from an inmate, it's filed at the federal level. We draw the attention of the federal people, then they can come in and issue a consent decree against us, and then they come to us and tell us what we're going to build. They don't ask, they tell us. Once you're under consent decree, even though you fulfill and build, then we are under that consent decree until we satisfy, and that could be years. What happens at that time then, this county has lost control of their jail, and the federal government then dictates to you what you're going to do and how you're going to run it. So that, and Bob, you can help, but that's pretty well as I understand it.
No, you absolutely were dead on. You covered exactly. You are driving the bus right now, and you're being proactive. You do not want to lose certification. It does come with some serious consequences.
And I'll add two other things right now. We've got holding in our files about 36,000 warrants right now. Of that 36,000, the majority of them would fall under the criminal side of the house. We used to, back years when I was in patrol and whatnot, we would have the Marshal Service and whatnot come in, and we would do what we call a roundup. And we would arrest from 30 to 60 and so forth. We don't do that anymore. The reason we don't do that anymore is I don't have any place to put them. You can bring them, and we have no cell to put them in. So we're sitting here on that many warrants that we're not serving. Now, obviously, if it's for a major crime and whatnot, we'll go after that. But that's one of the downsides right now that we've got, is we can't do our job. So I hope that answers the question. I will say this right now, we do have a suit that has been filed against us on capacity. So we're at that stage right now. So. Okay. Bart, if you don't mind, let Bart Klein come and kind of wrap up this presentation. And I've got to apologize to a couple of commissioners here. This is their second time around. And I thought we'd come in and present something totally different tonight for you, but
Yeah. Also, we got DA Jennings Jones back there. He may want to say something to us. You good?
If called upon to answer questions, I'll do the best I can. Otherwise, I will remain silently in support.
Thank you.
Quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The programming phase. Okay. We just heard about the jail, sheriff's office, criminal investigations, narcotics. Are there other areas that the programming phase may or could include that would involve law enforcement, that we could have basically everything in one place?
So that would probably be a question at the conclusion of Mr. Klein's presentation.
Okay, fair enough.
That'd be great. So if you can just re-ask that question after Bart presents, you might get your answer.
Bart, you heard it.
I didn't hear the question.
Programming phase.
He's got, after you get done, he's got, Commissioner's got a program question.
Hello, my name is Bart Klein with Klein Sweeney Associates, talking about the programming. I guess one number, Wayne, you may keep in mind is, after hearing all the numbers, is the existing jail was designed for 484 inmates and 88 staff. Everything you see that's built there today, it's got 1,050 inmates and 383 staff. The TCI requirements are minimum requirements to meet. So it's like an international building code. So no matter how many beds you have, it is 400% over capacity for the sheriff's side and 200% over capacity for the inmate side. And if you look at the statistics of population and when it was built in 1990 of 118,000, everything was built for 118,000 residents. Right now you're at the 380. If you compare those numbers of percentages, they kind of tell the tale. And I know you like numbers, so it's a good thing to look at. Moving into the programming, so our team is consisted of basically 10 consultants. Klein Sweeney will be managing all the consultants and part of this programming effort. Everything from medical services, mental services. We have a team that will be doing a report just like Mr. Hart's report to basically verify the staffing, the operations, all of that stuff. So that's in addition to what we do. Our experience, we're experiencing all kinds of corrections projects. We completed 68 corrections projects to date. Most recently, we're working on about a $500 million project for the state, which is a law enforcement academy and highway patrol headquarters and TDOS headquarters facility, but also 812 bed for CWC. It even dates back to the original Tennessee Women's Prison, West Tennessee Max. At one point in time, if it was TDOC project, our firm touched it in one way, shape, or form. On our team, you also have people like DLR. They're basically, if you get online and you look who is the corrections expert for facilities, you're going to find that these guys come up all the time, and that's pretty much what they do. They're going to be assisting us on staffing, some of the more critical elements through the programming aspects to really see what the right size of the facility is and to work with the sheriff on operations. As we work through on the schedule of programming, it's broken up into 3 major phases. Programming, which is in yellow. The blue is site investigations, and in green is master planning. So it's about a 6-month window. The first phase in yellow is the information gathering. The second phase in blue is basically looking at different sites or multiple sites and making sure they're clear of what they can do. And then the final phase is to test all of that. So at the end of the day, you're pretty much looking at having a schematic outlook of what these different solutions may be and what the cost range of these different solutions may be and what the operations cost of those solutions may be. That's a 6-month process. There'll probably be roughly 30 to 40 consultants working on this all together. If we talk about individuals, each one of them have a specific knowledge base that'll be used for a specific element during this phase. So everything, part of this is space needs analysis. So every space that is determined needed for the sheriff will be identified from the type of space, size of space, square footage need, what equipment's in that space. We create all that information, and basically that is the holy grail that helps us come to a square foot cost of that type of space. Then we move into what does that space look horizontally and vertically. So if you look at the existing jail, you have a tower. We know from an operations cost standpoint, towers are more expensive to operate. One thing I learned yesterday is the sheriff's budget's roughly $80 million. I don't know what their budget a year, I don't know what they spend a year on operating their facility, but if you could design a facility and save 10% in operations costs, then you start seeing over 50 years, what does that look like? After we get that information, we do what's called an adjacency diagram. So we take all those spaces, we put them next to each other, who needs to be next to what group. So almost like a factory that makes a widget, we want it to operate, the facility to operate the way that the sheriff needs it to operate to be most functional. So we put all those items together, we locate them next to each other, and then we basically take all that information and then we start into the staffing side. So this is an actual study that shows this facility is roughly $600,000 a month is what it costs to operate that facility. And so that is, you're going to hear the word indirect versus direct supervision types and if you come to any of these meetings, but an indirect is less on the operations side, while direct is more because they actually put the staff inside the detention pod, and that's something to think about. But I think for this group, they want to do a combination. And here are some images of really when you see on the left side a direct pod versus the indirect pod. So all that stuff will be figured out in this programming phase of what the facility type is going to be, what are the solutions, and what are the pros and cons of each. We're not here to design a facility at this phase. We're here to understand what the solutions can be to take care of what the county's needs are. This whole process for programming is 6 months. If you look at the whole window from programming to construction, it's about 60 months if you started tomorrow. Hopefully I was briefer than I was last night.
Go back to that slide just a second.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I'll ask my question now. Scope of programming is basically what it involves. Any other law enforcement facilities, related facilities, anything along those lines, or groups, are they going to be part of this programming?
Yes.
And if so, what do you share what you can so far about other areas that you might be including in this programming piece?
So every piece of property that the sheriff utilizes will be scrutinized in this report. Every piece of property. And then also, if you look at like the workforce or workhouse, and so if you read Mr. Hart's report, it basically says there looks like there's some capacity in that facility if some things are get done. If you talk to the operator, he thinks more needs to be done. So we're going to have to look at the workhouse some too as well. So no stone is left unturned. And I had this slide that I showed yesterday night, which, when we talk about building a new jail, it involves everything from the policy side, the classification side. It is conversations above my pay grade with district attorneys and judges, that talks about sentencing. So all that stuff is discussed. And even to the point of solutions may be, hey, we're building a new, or we're renovating, or we're building this and renovating, but then what do we do with all our excess real estate, and how does that unfold? What is the cost of this? What is it going to be on the market? What is the long-term cost of, if we renovate the existing facility, our long-term projected maintenance cost of that facility going to be versus what is the long-term projected maintenance for a new facility? So all those studies are in there. At the end of the day, this report, if done correctly with the amount of information, you're probably looking at, 2 binders about this thick with a bunch of data and a bunch of professionals behind it that, shoots out 3 or 4 different outcomes or solutions. And so there will be no question not asked, and there will be no rock unturned to get to a solution that comes about.
Thank you. The workhouse is one of the areas that I had heard. Any other law enforcement related areas?
Juvenile, sheriff. So, they talked about the way I look at sheriff, it's no different than a headquartered police station. So everything for them, from training to their firing range to the maintenance of their vehicles, how do they upfit their cars, put the radios in it. So we look at everything because this is not a jail project, it's a criminal justice facility. So it's everything that it takes for the sheriff to operate. So if you think about a school's budget, what is their yearly budget to operate? Well, if you what I just heard, $80 million to operate the sheriff, there's a lot that goes in on that. Not just locking people up. It's a whole myriad of things. So it's going to address everything to how do they change their tire on their vehicles? Do they outsource it, or is it done at a shop on site?
And then, is it contemplated that it would include the scalability aspect? For example, let's say we 2 years out, there's a no-go decision, we make a decision on X number of inmates, hypothetically, okay? And then one of the criticisms I've heard about the current jail is it's hard to scale. So scaling it in terms of adding another 500, another 1,000 inmates, whatever, or services or programs or whatever, you know, so that if something becomes more relevant, okay, then it would be included in that programming phase initially, so that we could take a look and assure ourselves that we're spending this amount of money. I know we're not doing it tonight, but I'm just saying we're spending X dollars for this, 1,000 inmates, okay, facility plus the sheriff's plus workhouse plus everything else. But then what if it expands by 500, you know? Or it would be hard to contract, I guess, but, you know, shrink. But it would be, I'd like for it, if possible, to consider expanding as well at an efficient cost. And we may end up scaling back slightly based on whatever data you provide. Mm-hmm. And then with the option or ability to ramp up, you know, additional units per se, you know, whatever you want to call them, so that we basically can maximize, you know, the efficiency of this process.
Expansion, so once we look at sites, every site will be looked at for its expansion ability. So what I can tell you, if you are to stay, and we know this because our firm spent 3 years looking at the stay option, there's only one place to put inmates because you got a floodplain issue and it's a tower, another tower. You won't be able to expand on that site anymore unless you want to design it for another tower on top of that tower. So when you compare that to a horizontal site where you can expand out, we're always going to plan for expansion. There'll be items that come into the programming session that may be a need, but they may not. But they may go into the want category, because we may not be able to afford them at that date. So it may go onto that long-term capital list that you guys are putting together. So, for instance, a firing range. You got a firing range right now. We may not be able to. You guys may not find the dollars to fund a new firing range because it would be nice to put everyone's facilities together because that reduces operation hours. That makes sense. But if not, then you can obviously use the existing firing range and plan for that new one. So all that stuff will be worked out. There'll be a lot of stuff, I guarantee, that'll make it to the want list versus the need list. And that's really for this body and the sheriff and the county to kind of work out what to fund. I guarantee you that's every project like this. This is a very complex, it's going to be a very complex next 5 years, honestly, especially if you tackle building the facility.
Any other questions?
Come to the monthly jail meetings. That's what I would do, those meetings.
Commissioner Phillips?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The programming phase, it'll take about 6 months for that to happen. And during that programming phase, a lot of questions would be answered. And at the end of that programming phase, the commission will make a decision as to whether to go forward or not to go forward with it. So there's stopgaps in this process. Part of that programming, there's nothing predetermined at this point in time.
Correct.
So we'll look at options as far as building on our current piece of property or expanding the jail that we have versus relocating, and what is the long-term best choice and recommended choice, and also maybe what is in the very long-term best interest of the county going forward. So all of those things will be determined during the programming portion of that, correct?
Correct.
And Mayor, if you could correct me if I'm wrong, what property, what
There you
public
are.
safety decided last night was to approve this, forward it on to property management, and then the budget would consider how to fund the programming end of it.
That is correct. As you'll recall, Chairman, Michael Smith outlined several options about that, and he wasn't willing to commit until he had an opportunity to do a little more research and then allow the appropriate standing committee, which is budget, to make that determination. But that is correct.
Very good. And I don't want to cut off discussion, but at this time, I'd like to make that motion, the same that came out of public safety, to move this forward with a positive recommendation, in essence, to approve the programming concept, forwarded on to budget, and that budget make the determination as to where the funding of this programming phase would come from, and then forwarded on to the full commission for consideration.
And that is, Mr. Chairman, that is the exact same motion that came out of Public Works last night. Public Safety, excuse me.
Is that a motion?
I'll second it.
Second. Any other discussion?
Quick question. When's the next
Commissioner
time
Irvin?
when's the next time we would get an update? In other words, do we anticipate kind of waiting 6 months and then ding?
So, Mark, thank you. I prefer to look at the person who's talking to me. So what we discussed last night is this programming phase is going to take approximately 6 months, and I've conferred with Bart. KSA will do the programming. I expect Bart will make a couple, 3 presentations to give us updates during that period of time. That's yet to be determined until we outline the scope, but I expect a minimum of 2 or 3 presentations before we get to the final destination of what are we going to do at our next go, no-go point. So the answer is that I would assume he'll make those here and at public safety both.
Also, if I could interject, Commissioner Irvin, the timing, too, is somewhat odd because this commission has 6 months left in its term. So at the end of the 6 months, probably this commission will make a decision to move forward or not, but then it'll be up to the following commission to follow up on that and move forward. So this commission will probably only be involved in the initial phase, the programming phase of this. The next commission will make decisions beyond that.
And that's a very important point, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
The decision that this body makes, this commission, in no way binds the future commission. And that's what's really important, because this is spanning several elections, at least one election cycle. So any decision we make will not bind the next commission.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Rick Hall?
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Phil Dodd?
Yes.
And Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so
Mr. Chairman, could I have a personal
Go ahead.
praise? I want to compliment this committee on being very, very efficient. That just went really quick. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, Facilities Maintenance Report, Director Dodd. Uh-oh. Hold up just a minute, Director.
Bob and Jim, that concludes our business for tonight, and you're free to knock off if you want to.
Thank you.
And thank you for attending, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Now, Director Dodd.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll start tonight's report off with our only current ongoing project under construction at this time, the Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center. Our last OAC meeting was held on January the 20th, 2026. In attendance was Chairman McAdoo, Chairman Johnson, and Commissioner Boyd. The overall site work remains ongoing at approximately 80%. Stormwater and retaining ponds are currently at 90%. The driving lane and parking areas, that grading work is now ongoing at 20%. Exterior framing work is now complete. Exterior sheathing is at approximately 90% complete. The tie-in and detail work remain, and that is around the eaves related to the roof work. The MPE, the mechanical, plumbing, and electrical rough-in is ongoing at approximately 50% complete, and the inspections are up to date. The EPDM roof installation is ongoing. It is approximately 90% complete. There is an area remaining that they hope to finish early next week, and that is located above the medical examiner's office. Our 4 weeks look ahead is the roof installation should be completed within 2 weeks. The roof trim out and detail parapet walls, complete vapor barrier installation, brick veneer work to follow. Complete the interior wall layouts in the administrative and the lab areas. There are no new change orders to report. Our design and construction contingency remains at $480,000. The subcontractor and the supplier procurement has now been finalized. This greatly reduces the risk of potential budget overruns on this project or delays on this project. And finally, because this project is very unique, the mayor's office has requested an additional OAC meeting each month. The architect and the general contractor have agreed. So we're now scheduling these OACs on a bi-weekly basis for additional oversight on this project. That completes this month's report on the Forensic Center, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Quick question. Where are you in terms of the budget?
Sir?
Where are you in terms of the budget? Sorry if I missed it. You went over it already.
We're under budget, and we're currently running ahead of schedule. I'm sorry, as far as the project deadline, but as far as the budget is concerned, we're under budget currently, and the contingency stands at $480,000.
Any other questions?
Commissioners, line item number 5 on the agenda tonight is we typically will key in a capital projects update, but there have been no changes to our current capital projects. So there is not a report tonight, but we will have an updated, Eric will have an updated report next month on the regarding the capital projects.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this report? Motion is second. Any other discussion?
Who was the second? Who was the first?
I made the motion, Anthony.
For some reason, I wasn't here last night. I couldn't even hear.
Sorry, I didn't use my mic.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to just comment that I'm impressed with Director Dodd's presentation, his grasp of the construction terminology, being able to express what's going on in the owner-architect-contractor meetings, and to be able to appreciate that subcontractors are buying materials ahead of time and kind of cutting off our risk of exposure of price increases. So I just want to personally compliment you, Adam, on a job well done.
I'd also like to follow up, Adam, with all the work that you've done this week, and not only keeping us safe, but all the extra work you put in to make sure that government still ran. So thank you for all the extra hours and keeping us once again safe and secure. Thank you.
You're more than welcome, sir. There's always room for improvement.
I can't say Director Dodd. I can't say Director Dodd is 24/7 on the job. Commissioner Irvin.
Sure. I'll say good job too. But also, could we get, in advance of the next meeting, and Eric's back here too, a kind of an updated, very, a little more clean, a little more precise capital projects budget that includes,
Sure.
that way, because the last one I have, I'm kind of missing kind of numbers and kind of on the capital side and operations side, kind of like we were talking about, oh gosh, it's been a few months now. And I was just trying to not put any pressure on tonight, but for the next meeting, maybe we could start taking a look, because I'm trying to anticipate, in addition, because I'm sure it'll come up in budget, kind of the cost of some of the stuff that we're talking about. And, theoretically, the jail, I know there's a lot of different ways to go there, but in terms of the capital plus the operations side, but there's other expenditures like on the school side, but there's also all these smaller projects, relatively speaking, in the capital improvements projects list, and start getting a sense for priority and dollars and kind of because we're coming up into budget season sooner than we think, and we're coming into another cycle, after that with another commission, as Chairman Phillips pointed out. So I think it's responsible to start putting a pencil to paper on some of these and get them a little, to the extent we can. If it's range, that's fine. I'm just trying to start nailing some of this down so that there are fewer surprises in 6 months or a year.
Yeah, so what has been provided so far is an estimate as far as construction cost and land acquisition cost, and then a percentage estimate for architectural design fees. What has not been presented and what I'm still working on is kind of what we call soft costs, FF&E, and those kinds of things. So I'm working with Adam and Bart Klein to kind of get some of those numbers nailed down. I don't know if you can tell I've been a little bit under the weather, and I made the mistake of taking a vacation the first couple of weeks of January, so that kind of limited my time. But yes, by next month, we should have some of those soft costs nailed down for a little bit better total package price. Operationally speaking, a lot of these buildings are just expansions of what we've got, so I don't really know that there or moving one area to the next, so I don't really know that there's an operations cost associated with that, and I wouldn't really know how to calculate the operations cost anyways. So
Say that again, sorry.
I wouldn't know how to calculate the operations cost. It would depend on if it's just moving people from one building to the next building, then there's probably zero operations cost and that kind of thing. So it would depend on how many new employees would be put into each one of these buildings. So like if we build a fire admin building, I would say the operations cost would be negligible or almost zero because you're just moving personnel from one building to another building.
Well, for example, the Forensic Center, and it's great to hear that it's a little under budget. That's great. But I don't think I've ever heard to this point kind of a expected capital expenditure and then a operating cost associated with the Forensic Center, except a long time ago when there was some kind of fuzzy budgets floating around. But so I'm kind of start nailing down some of that. Take a look at B of A, to try to nail some of that down, because we're going to have to make a decision on that in the not terribly distant future.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is...
And some of these other projects also, just trying to start nail them down in a kind of a budget so we can start prioritizing. I mean, B of A, do we need, what you call a building over there? So, at any rate, Goldstein.
So just to kind of discuss the BOA. So as I understand it, primarily what we're going to be doing is just moving the department from one physical plant to another physical plant. So that is not going to create new operations at cost. it may ultimately end up finding efficiencies in operations because of the current facilities that they have are not conducive to completing their work. But so at this point in time, I don't know that there's any request for new personnel to go into that building. So the operations cost would be the same as what they currently
Well, operations and maintenance cost, for example, is probably different for Goldstein versus B of A.
So you want maintenance cost as well?
I'd like to know all the costs because we're responsible for the cost of.
I will do my best.
Okay, and that's all. That's what we're asking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want Goldstein main?
Well, I mean, I think we need to do a bit of analysis there, candidly. I mean, Goldstein there's all these potential opportunities for acquisitions or divestitures. And I think it makes sense to start taking a look. If B of A is going to end up costing us an extra $500,000 a year, just hypothetically, pulling a number out of the air, I have no idea. If B of A is going to cost us an extra $500,000 a year in maintenance expenses, and operating expenses, and everything else, in addition to the $17 million, up front, then I think we would want to know that now as opposed to later, for purposes of figuring out the budget. Okay, because not only are we going to have it's going to cost more over there. Okay, what does that tell us in terms of our analysis, in terms of whether we keep Goldstein or not? Okay. And maybe there's some other efficiencies that we could take.
So you want the cost of maintenance for Goldstein building, correct?
I would like for every building that we are considering, the Forensic Center, for Goldstein, for that's under review, Church Street, for B of A, for every building, I think it would be prudent as we start going into this process, because all these smaller projects, than a jail and schools and things like that, okay, can add up pretty fast in terms of kind of their capital costs, their expenditures, things along those lines. All I'm asking for is the data so that we can take a look at it and say, if we buy B of A, there's really no reason to keep Goldstein, or should we buy B of A or keep looking into another facility?
You want to include the courthouse also? It's a maintenance and operational cost
I'm
here.
sorry, this courthouse or the other courthouse?
This courthouse, judicial building, they usually stand alone.
I think it's safe to say that no one wants to sell this building.
Well, not only that, you asked about the maintenance costs.
Well,
You want the maintenance costs, operating costs of this courthouse also.
for buildings and facilities that are kind of realistically under consideration at this point in time for either buying or selling.
The reason I bring that up because the courthouse, we were looking at a plan maybe to move our historical archives or whatever over to the Goldstein building. So therefore, you want a cost analysis of that?
If there's an ongoing cost to Goldstein, yes, I think it would be prudent to know what the ongoing cost to Goldstein is.
Commissioner Irvin, maybe I can say this, and this might help somewhat, and Adam is still here. He can back me up on this. But ever since I've worked for the county has added more buildings almost every year, I believe. And Adam's budget has not went up subsequent to those new buildings, or very minimal has it gone up subsequent to those new buildings that have all been added. And Adam could probably tell you to the penny how much his budget has increased and the total number of new buildings that he has taken on. So we will do what we can and get what numbers we can, but I think you're going to find that there's really it's marginal at best for any increase because, as I said, Adam has done a tremendous job of maintaining those costs and keeping the cost the same while dealing with more buildings for the county every year.
And that's great, but he's able to do the same amount, to handle all the properties at the same amount. My concern is simply, our idea is to start breaking some of these out so that we know Goldstein costs us X dollars a year. Okay? The B of A is going to cost us X dollars a year. okay? The courthouse is really not on the block, so that kind of goes into whatever it goes into.
So it's a maintenance cost to this courthouse.
If you would like to have the number, that's great. But
Okay.
I don't need that number.
Also, it's another building, I don't know if you want it on there. All I'm trying to do is give him enough information so he can bring you back your complete report. So when we bring it back, you'll say, oh, I forgot this. What about the Church Street building that we're looking at? You want it
Yes,
on there too?
Absolutely. The Church Street building, yeah, absolutely.
I said, we'll take a shot at it and see what we can do.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
I think what you're asking has some value. The schools that we build, okay, they come on board, and there's cost associated with it from an insurance risk management perspective, operational cost, and then a maintenance cost. Maybe we could use some model similar to what they're doing to move forward with that. So if we could do something similar to what the schools are doing without trying to recreate something, might work. So they put all that stuff together, so if we could use something, ask them how they put all that stuff together, and if we could use something like that, we wouldn't have to.
Yeah, the spreadsheet that we initially created was based off of, somewhat off of what the schools did, because we were trying to put them in the same kind of format.
And
But we can go back.
the deal
and
with
look at that.
maintenance, it may not be that you could get an individual cost, but you could add a cost that is associated with it, with some of those buildings countywide. I think that's what they do over at the Board of Education. So it may be able to give some of those things, but it might be a broader picture than just a particular building, but that building would be included in whatever the maintenance cost might be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a range, a ballpark, whatever, and then we can talk about it more.
Okay. All right, so the reason I'm here tonight is the courthouse use grounds rules. I know we looked at this a couple of years ago, and there's been a couple of things. I hope everybody can hear me. There's been a couple of things that we have needed to modify. You know, when you say no flames of any kind, we have to come back and clarify that means no grills as well. Those kinds of things. We have, I think something that we're trying to do that most people here will like is I've heard commissioners in the past mention that it's difficult to find parking whenever the entire courthouse, interior courthouse is blocked off and you're coming in for a Thursday afternoon meeting or something to that effect. So we are requiring stages to be on the west side, which would then allow us to leave open the east side. So there would be at least a few parking spots that would be available. That would also be during the day so that patrons who are coming in to pay taxes and that kind of thing have access, and it's not blocked off for the entire inner circle. There is a provision that would allow the mayor if an applicant requests, they would, for the mayor to approve them putting something on the east side. That is kind of in thought of like the Christmas tree lighting, the Christmas trees on the east side, so we probably would have to keep the stage on the east side for that event and those kinds of things. It clarifies that there would be no access to the historic courthouse building. Adam is thrilled that we are putting that in there for sure. Again, we're not blocking the east side to allow people to come in and out. One thing that we're doing too is trying to streamline this a little bit in that everybody has to submit what they want by the first Friday in March. And so that way we can set out a calendar for the entire year and that everybody knows what that calendar is, and it's not something that's changing. It's something that is set in stone, and maybe we can move dates around to not interfere with commission meetings or committee meetings or things of that nature. But it's not one of those where, oh, hey, we want to have an event in 3 weeks, and then Adam is having to try to get somebody to come over here to pull up the barricades and all this kind of thing, when he'll know, early March when he's got to have someone over here to pull up those barricades. Another thing is we're not prohibiting more than one event in a day. However, we are discouraging it. So the thing is that there would be a fee for the use of one day. Should the mayor decide that more than one event could take place in a day, then that is something that would be allowed. But there's nothing in these rules that should be construed as, there's nothing in these rules shall be construed as guaranteeing that multiple events will be allowed on a single day. Approval of multiple events is at discretion of the county mayor. And that's just, it gets busy up here sometimes, and there's a lot of movement and a lot of people. And, you know, if you've got multiple events in one day and something happens, which group caused the problem, which group didn't, there's finger pointing, those kinds of things. I will say Nick has reviewed this, actually as late as today. We made some changes to this, and so this is what we believe would be best for the courthouse use ground rules.
Any questions?
As long as I've been around, I've never seen this. Has anybody else seen the rules of this? Is there something already in place, Eric?
Everything that's not in red is already in place, and actually this was approved by this committee back in 22, 23, something like that, early 2023.
Can you see Rick?
Yeah, we had one years ago, and then we kind of had it with the growth and so many.
That was what I was getting at. I just wondered what the difference was.
The little underlined stuff. Is it not showing up red? Oh, wow.
Well, I had put the red line version as what I had sent. So I'm sorry that didn't seem to make it. Specifically, on the first page, there is a line that says gas or charcoal grills or smokers, either personal or commercial, are prohibited on the grounds. On the second page, all stages shall be set up on the west side of the courthouse. Any exception shall be requested in writing at the time of the application submitted. The county mayor will review the request and notify the applicant prior to the event date whether the request has been approved. Also, access to the historic courthouse will not be permitted during the event. Any exception shall be requested in writing at the time of the application submitted. The county mayor will review the request and notify the applicant prior to the event whether the request has been approved. That is the reason that there's some leeway there, is because you have the pictures with Santa Claus that take place in December. For events occurring during business hours or during the work week, the east side of the inner square will not be blocked until end of business hours to better facilitate citizens conducting business within the historic courthouse. Again, that's what I was talking about earlier as far as making it more convenient for commissioners to make it to meetings. Under the insurance, it says coverage shall be written on occurrence basis and shall be primary and non-contributory with respect to any insurance carried by the county. Next, under the procedure, each May, the county mayor's office will prepare an annual schedule of events. Therefore, all applicants shall be received by the mayor's office no later than the first Friday in March. All applications are subject to modification at the discretion of the county mayor. The grounds are reserved on a first-come, first-served basis. However, any events that are determined to be disruptive to county business occurring in or around the historic courthouse may be denied regardless of the submission date. And then they have to notify us within 15 days versus 10 days, what it said previously. There's a $750 fee. Events occurring over multiple consecutive days will be charged $500 per day. If more than one event is allowed on any given day, the fee for each group's partial day usage shall be $400. The county mayor, in his or her discretion, may consider waiving the above-mentioned fees for a 501c3 charitable organization. Nothing in these rules shall be construed as guaranteeing that multiple events will be allowed on a single day. Approval of multiple events is at the discretion of the county mayor. And then at the very end, under cancellation, permission to use courthouse facilities is granted as a revocable license only, subject to the county's sole discretion and does not create any leasehold, tenancy, easement, or other property interest. The county may revoke such permission at any time with or without cause, and nothing shall be construed as a waiver of any governmental immunity or limitation of liability available to Rutherford County under the Tennessee Governmental Tort Liability Act or other applicable law. So those things that I just read off were the only changes that were made to the current policy.
How many events met this criteria last year, roundabout?
So we do the farmer's market every Saturday from March till October.
25, 30, something like that?
Oh, I have a folder full, and then we have DAR events, we have different, the prayer thing, Friday Night Lights.
Earth Day.
Earth Day, the hot chili, what is it? Not hot
Habitat
chili,
for Humanity.
The hot
Cooking
chicken
to Build.
thing, yeah, Habitat for Humanity.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, Friday Night Lights. There's several. There's more than you think. There's a lot.
30, 40, something
Yeah.
like that?
Wine around the square.
All around the square, yeah. And I already have people asking now, how are you gonna fill out the application? So I had to tell them that we were revising some things, and until it got approved, we wouldn't be, sending out any applications yet.
So it's used often?
Yes.
And county attorney has looked at this and approved it?
Yes. As a matter of fact, he looked at it just today, too, a second time. So.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve, do I hear a second? Second. Second, in discussion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Dodd?
Thank you, Chairman. Just one question. I assume it's true. If this body, if the mayor, if the commissioner had some desire to tweak it because of an experience, we can bring this back to this body.
This is the second time the mayor's office has brought this to this body. Like I said, it was probably early '23, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Late '22, whenever we brought this originally.
Early
because of
23.
some issues that we were having
Okay,
back
great.
then.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I'm just
Commissioner
concerned.
Irvin?
I'm just concerned that it hasn't been I haven't had a chance to really study it. I respect that others may feel differently, but I like to spend a little bit of time reading and thinking about something before I vote on it. So I'm going to vote no, but if it moves on, I'll respect that. That's fine.
Any other discussion? Not call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Irvin,
No.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman McAdoo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, any other business come before us tonight? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.